66 million years ago, on an ordinary morning in the late age of the dinosaurs, the sky fell. Out of the dark of space, a mountain of rock and metal, perhaps 6 miles across, wider than a great city, came screaming down through the air toward a shallow sea on the edge of what is now Mexico. It struck the Earth at a speed beyond imagining, with the force of billions of the most powerful bombs ever built, and in that single instant, the long reign of the dinosaurs was sentenced to its end. The impact threw a curtain of fire and debris around the whole world. The skies darkened, the forests burned and then froze, and in the long, cold dark that followed, the great dinosaurs, the rulers of the Earth for more than 150 million years, died, almost every one, and were gone forever. It was one of the most complete catastrophes in the history of life. And tonight, we are going to imagine that it never happened. Picture the world as it was, on that last ordinary morning, in the final hours before the asteroid came. It was a world ruled by dinosaurs, as it had been for an almost unimaginable span of time. Great long-necked giants browsed the treetops, their heads swaying high above the forest. Horned and armored plant-eaters moved in herds across the floodplains. Swift, sharp-eyed hunters stalked through the ferns. Overhead, leathery-winged reptiles wheeled on the warm air, and in the seas, great marine reptiles ruled the deep. For over 150 million years, this had been the shape of the living world, the age of dinosaurs, vast and successful and triumphant. A dynasty so long and so dominant that it makes the entire history of humankind look like a single passing breath. And on that last morning, none of them had any reason to suspect that it was about to end. But end it did. The asteroid came, and the world it struck was changed forever. In the cold and dark of the years that followed, as the dust blotted out the sun, and the plants died, and the food chains collapsed, the great dinosaurs starved and froze and faded, until at last they were gone, all of them, every great thunder lizard and swift hunter and horned giant, swept from the earth. Only their small feathered cousins, the ancestors of the birds, survived to carry the dinosaur line on in a humbler form. The age of dinosaurs was over, and into the empty world they left behind crept a group of small, furry, unremarkable survivors, the mammals, who would in time inherit the earth and give rise, at the very end, to us. But what if the asteroid had missed? What if, on that ordinary morning, the great rock had passed the earth by, a near miss, a streak of light in the sky, and then gone, harmlessly, back into the dark of space? What if the catastrophe had never come, and the long reign of the dinosaurs had simply continued, on and on, never broken, never ended? Tonight, that is the world we are going to explore, a world where the dinosaurs never died, a world where their great dynasty, already 150 million years old, simply kept going, for another 66 million years, all the way down to the present day. We are going to ask what those creatures might have become, given all that extra time. We are going to imagine the dinosaurs of the modern world, and the world that would have no room anywhere in it for us. So before we begin, if you enjoy these quiet journeys into worlds that might have been, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly want to. And tell me in the comments where you're listening from tonight, on our own version of the Earth, the one where the asteroid did strike and cleared the way, in the end, for us. There's something strange and lovely in that thought, all of us here, warm and safe and sleepy, only because of a catastrophe 66 million years ago, drifting off now while we imagine the world that would have been if it had never come. Now settle in and let your body grow heavy and still. Dim the lights and let your breathing slow and deepen. There is nothing you need to do now but listen and drift and wander back with me across millions of years to the world that almost was. This is the story of the day the sky fell, and of the world that would have lived on, ruled by dinosaurs forever, if only the sky had stayed whole. And we have the whole long night to explore it. To understand how strange and wonderful a world ruled by living dinosaurs would be, we must first understand just how long and how complete their reign already was, before the asteroid ever came. For the dinosaurs were not some brief experiment of nature, some passing chapter soon closed. They were the most successful large land animals in the entire history of the Earth, rulers of the world for a span of time so vast that the human mind can barely hold it. Let us begin by simply standing in awe of how long they ruled. The dinosaurs first arose more than 230 million years ago, in the time we call the Triassic. They were not at first the rulers of the world. They began as relatively modest creatures, sharing the land with other kinds of reptiles. But across the ages, they rose. And once they rose, they held the world utterly, through age after age after age. Through the long, warm Jurassic, when the great long-necked giants grew to the largest sizes any land animal has ever reached. Through the Cretaceous, when the horned dinosaurs and the armored dinosaurs and the great tyrant hunters walked the earth. For over 150 million years, the dinosaurs were the dominant land animals on the planet, not in one place, but everywhere, not for a moment, but for an eternity, by the measure of our own brief existence. Let us try to grasp that span, for it is almost impossible. The dinosaurs ruled for over 150 million years. Modern human beings, our own species, have existed for perhaps 300,000 years. That means the dinosaurs ruled for something like 500 times longer than we have even existed. If you compress the entire reign of the dinosaurs into a single year, then all of human history, every civilization, every empire, every person who ever lived, would fit into the last few minutes before midnight on the final day. Their reign was not a chapter in the story of life. It was practically the whole book. We are the footnote. And in all that vast time, the dinosaurs did what successful, dominant life always does. They spread into every corner of the world, and they diversified into a staggering array of forms. There were the giants, the long-necked sauropods, the largest creatures ever to walk the land, so huge that the ground is said to have trembled at their passing. There were the great predators, from the famous tyrant kings to swift pack hunters with sickle-clawed feet. There were horned dinosaurs and dome-headed dinosaurs, and armored dinosaurs bristling with spikes and clubs, duck-billed dinosaurs that moved in vast herds, small, swift, feathered dinosaurs that were quick and clever and warm. The dinosaurs filled the world, in every size and shape, ruling the land as completely as any group of animals ever has. This was the dynasty that the asteroid ended, and this is the dynasty that, tonight, we are going to let live on. So hold that vast reign in your mind as you begin to settle towards sleep. 150 million years of dominance, age upon age upon age of a world ruled by these magnificent creatures. A dynasty so long, it makes our own existence look like a single heartbeat. That was the world the asteroid destroyed in a single afternoon. And if it had missed, if that long reign had simply continued, then the dinosaurs would have had another 66 million years to go on ruling, go on evolving, to become something even we, who know them only as bones, can scarcely imagine. Let us go and meet them in the world that might have been. Before we turn the asteroid aside and let the dinosaurs live on, let us understand exactly what happened on that terrible day. For only by knowing the catastrophe that was, can we truly appreciate the world that would have been without it. So let us look, gently and from the safe distance of 66 million years, at the stone that changed the world. It came from the depths of space, a wandering mountain of rock, perhaps 6 miles wide, a piece of the rubble left over from the birth of the solar system, drifting on its long orbit until, on one particular day, its path crossed the path of the Earth. There was no warning, for there was no one to give it. It tore through the atmosphere in seconds, a fireball brighter than the sun, and struck the shallow sea off the coast of what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The energy released was almost beyond comprehension, billions of times more powerful than the most destructive weapons humans have ever made. It blasted a crater more than 100 miles across and miles deep. It threw a vast plume of molten rock and vaporized stone high above the atmosphere, out into space and back down again, raining fire across the world. And it was not the impact itself that killed the dinosaurs, not for most of them. It was what came after. The debris thrown into the sky re-entered the atmosphere across the whole planet, heating the air until forests spontaneously burst into flame around the globe. Then came the cold and the dark. So much dust and soot and ash was thrown into the high atmosphere that it blotted out the sun, not for days, but for months, perhaps years. In that long darkness, the plants could not grow, for plants need sunlight, and as the plants died, the great plant-eating dinosaurs starved, and as they starved, the great predators that fed on them starved in turn. The whole vast pyramid of life, built on the foundation of sunlight and green growth, collapsed from the bottom up. The world grew cold and dark and silent, and in that long, terrible winter, the dinosaurs died. The toll was staggering. Something like 3/4 of all the species on Earth vanished in that catastrophe. Not just the dinosaurs, but the flying reptiles, the great marine reptiles, countless kinds of plants and insects and sea creatures, gone in a geological instant. It was one of the 5 great mass extinctions in the history of life, and for the dinosaurs, it was the end. After more than 150 million years of unbroken rule, their dynasty was destroyed, not by any weakness of their own, not by any rival that outcompeted them, but by a random stone from space, falling on a random morning, in the wrong place at the wrong time. Pure chance, pure cosmic bad luck. The dinosaurs did nothing wrong. The sky simply fell on them. And that, perhaps, is the most sobering thing of all to hold for a moment, before we set the catastrophe aside. The dinosaurs were not failures. They were the most successful land animals the world has ever known, triumphant for an eternity. And they were destroyed in an afternoon by something they could never have seen coming and could never have survived. Their ending was not deserved. It was simply chance. But tonight, in our imagining, the chance falls the other way. Tonight, the great stone passes the earth by. The fireball never comes. The forests never burn. The skies never darken. The long winter never falls. And the dinosaurs, magnificent, successful, triumphant, simply go on living, as they had for 150 million years, into all the long ages still to come. Let us turn now from the catastrophe that was, and step into the world that would have been. So let us do it. Let us reach back 66 million years, to that ordinary morning, and gently nudge the great stone aside. Its path shifts, just slightly, a fraction of a degree, a few minutes of difference, and instead of striking the earth, it passes by. Perhaps it streaks across the sky as a brilliant fireball, brighter than the sun, and the dinosaurs that happen to be looking up see a flash of light and feel a moment's strange unease. And then it is gone, back into the dark of space, on its long, lonely orbit, not to return. The morning continues. The sun stays bright. The forests stay green, and the world of the dinosaurs, which in our history ended that day, simply goes on. At first, nothing changes, and that is the whole point. The world simply continues being what it had been for over 150 million years. Rich, warm, abundant, and ruled by dinosaurs. The great long-necked sauropods go on browsing the treetops. The horned and armored giants go on moving in their herds across the floodplains. The swift hunters go on stalking through the ferns. The flying reptiles go on wheeling overhead, and the marine reptiles go on ruling the seas. The seasons turn. The rivers flow. Generation after generation of dinosaurs is born and lives and dies, as they always had. The difference is only this, that the catastrophe which should have ended it all never arrives, and so the world that should have died simply keeps on living, age after age, exactly as it had been. But exactly as it had been cannot last forever, because life never stands still. It is always changing, always evolving, always pushing into new shapes as the world itself changes around it. In our own history, the death of the dinosaurs acted like a great reset. It swept the board clear, removed the dominant dinosaurs, and handed the empty world to a completely different group, the mammals, who rose to fill it and eventually produced us. Without that catastrophe, none of that happens. The mammals are never handed the empty world. They remain what they had been all through the age of dinosaurs, small, shadowy creatures, scurrying around the edges of a world firmly ruled by others, never getting their chance to rise. And the dinosaurs, freed from catastrophe, simply keep doing what they had always done, ruling, spreading, evolving, diversifying, for another 66 million years. And that is an enormous span of time enough for the dinosaurs to change in ways we can scarcely imagine. Remember that 66 million years is the same span in which, in our own history, the mammals went from small, shadowy survivors to the entire modern world of whales and elephants and bats and primates and human beings. That is how much evolution can do in 66 million years. So give that same span to the dinosaurs, already a vastly successful and diverse group, already masters of the world, and let them keep evolving through it, and you get something extraordinary, a whole modern world of dinosaurs, descended from the creatures we know as fossils, but shaped by 66 million more years of change into forms that might astonish us. The dinosaurs of the present day, the thunder lizards of now. This is the great question at the heart of tonight's journey, and we will spend the rest of the night exploring it. Given another 66 million years, with no catastrophe to stop them, and no mammals to replace them, what would the dinosaurs have become? Would the great giants have grown greater still? Would the swift, clever, feathered hunters have grown cleverer, perhaps even intelligent? Would the dinosaurs have adapted to the ice ages and the drifting continents and all the changes that were coming? Would there be, in this world, dinosaurs of the modern age, ruling a planet that we would never get to see? Tonight we are going to imagine the answers and walk through the living, breathing world of the dinosaurs that never died. Let us begin to watch that world unfold. Before we follow the surviving dinosaurs forward through their stolen 66 million years, there is something you should know, a secret hidden in plain sight, a truth that changes how we think about this whole story. The dinosaurs did not entirely die. Not all of them. One branch of the great dinosaur family survived the catastrophe, lived on through all the ages since, and is still here today, all around us, in our own ringless, ordinary world. You have seen them. You see them every day. They are the birds. It is one of the most remarkable discoveries of modern science, and it is now beyond serious doubt. Birds are dinosaurs, not merely descended from dinosaurs. They are dinosaurs, a surviving branch of the same great family that included the Tyrant kings and the long-necked giants. The small, swift, feathered hunters of the age of dinosaurs gave rise to the birds, and when the asteroid fell and the great dinosaurs died, a few of these small, feathered creatures survived, and from them came every bird alive today. The sparrow at your window, the hawk on the wind, the chicken in the yard, the great soaring eagle. Every one of them is a living dinosaur, a direct descendant of the creatures that ruled the earth before the sky fell. The age of dinosaurs never fully ended. It simply continued, in feathered and flying form, all around us. This matters for our story because it tells us something important about what the dinosaurs were really like and what they could become. The birds reveal that many dinosaurs were warm-blooded, active, fast-living creatures, not the slow, cold reptiles of old imagination. They reveal that many dinosaurs had feathers, that feathers arose not for flight at first, but for warmth and display, and were common across the dinosaur family long before any dinosaur flew. They reveal that dinosaurs could be clever, for birds are among the most intelligent animals alive, some of them rivaling apes in their problem-solving and their use of tools. And they reveal that dinosaurs could be small and swift and adaptable, able to survive and thrive and spread across the whole world. The dinosaurs were not lumbering failures waiting to be replaced. They were dynamic, warm-blooded, feathered, sometimes brilliant creatures, and the birds are the living proof. So when we imagine the dinosaurs living on, we are not imagining something against nature. We are simply imagining that more of them survived, that not only the small feathered flyers made it through, but the great ones too, the giants, the hunters, the horned and armored herds. We are imagining a world where the whole dinosaur family carried on, not just the feathered branch we call birds. And we have, in the birds, a living glimpse of what that world might hold. For the cleverness of the crow, the speed of the falcon, the social life of the goose, the dazzling display of the peacock, all of these are dinosaur traits. alive and well in our own world, hinting at what the great dinosaurs might have become given time. Hold that wonder gently as you settle towards sleep, that the dinosaurs are not entirely gone, that they sing outside your window every morning, that the age of dinosaurs in a sense never ended at all. And then imagine the fuller version, a world where not just the birds survived, but all of it, the giants and the hunters and the herds, the whole magnificent dynasty, carried on unbroken into the present day. The birds are the thread that survived. Tonight, we imagine the whole tapestry preserved. Let us follow it forward now, into the world the dinosaurs would have built. Let us set the great clock of evolution running forward, then, from that saved world, and watch what happens across the long ages, not the way it happened in our history, but the way it might have happened if the dinosaurs had simply kept their throne. We have 66 million years to cross, so let us move through them gently, like watching a slow sunrise, and see how the world would change. In the first stretch of saved time, the first few million years past the catastrophe that never came, the changes would be subtle. The world would simply go on being the world of the late dinosaurs, the same great families ruling the same warm continents, the same giants and hunters and herds. But even in this early stretch, evolution would never be quite still. The dinosaurs would continue doing what they had always done, adapting, refining, slowly shifting in response to the slowly changing world. Some lineages would grow larger, some smaller, some would move into new habitats, some would refine their old ways. The endless slow work of evolution would continue, generation by generation, reshaping the dinosaur world in small ways that, across millions of years, would add up to large ones. And the world itself would be changing around them, even without the asteroid, for the Earth is never still. The continents were drifting, the climate was slowly shifting, the plants were evolving. In our own history, the period right after the dinosaurs died saw great changes in the world. The rise of new kinds of plants, shifts in climate, the slow cooling that would eventually lead toward ice ages. All of these changes would still happen in the saved world, for they did not depend on the dinosaurs' death. The difference is that here, it would be the dinosaurs, not the mammals, who had to adapt to them. The dinosaurs who would face the changing plants, the cooling climate, the drifting continents, and evolve to meet them. And adapt they would, for they were endlessly adaptable, as their bird descendants prove. So picture these first few million years as a time of quiet continuation and slow change, the dinosaur world rolling on, magnificent and intact, while beneath the surface, the slow currents of evolution and a changing Earth began to reshape it. The great families would still be recognizable. You would still see sauropods and tyrannosaurs and horned dinosaurs and duckbills, the familiar cast of the late Cretaceous. But they would be slowly shifting, slowly adapting, slowly becoming something new. The world would be poised at the beginning of a vast journey, the journey from the dinosaurs we know as fossils toward the dinosaurs of the modern age, the creatures that 66 million years of unbroken evolution would eventually produce. Let that slow beginning settle over you as you drift toward rest. The dinosaur world simply carrying on past the catastrophe that never came, intact and magnificent, the familiar giants still browsing the treetops, and the familiar hunters still stalking the ferns, while all around them, the world turns slowly on, and the long, patient work of change begins. We are at the very start of the journey now, in the first few million years of the saved world, with the whole vast sweep of stolen time still ahead of us. Let us follow it forward, and watch the dinosaurs become something new. Let us turn first to the greatest of all the dinosaurs, the giants, the long-necked sauropods, the largest creatures ever to walk upon the land, and ask, what would become of them, given another 66 million years to endure and evolve? For these magnificent creatures were among the great wonders of the dinosaur world, and in the saved world, they would go on being so, perhaps in forms grander than any that ever actually lived. The sauropods were the long-necked giants, creatures like the famous Brachiosaurus and Diplodocus, and the truly colossal titanosaurs, the largest land animals in the entire history of the Earth. Some of them reached lengths of over 100 feet and weights of 70 tons or more, so vast that everything about them strains belief. Hearts the size of a person, necks longer than a bus, footprints you could bathe in. They were living mountains of flesh, moving slowly across the land, browsing the high treetops that no other creature could reach, their long necks sweeping across the canopy like great living cranes. They had ruled as the giants of the land for over 100 million years already, by the time of the asteroid. And in the saved world they would simply go on. What would become of them across 66 million more years? They might grow even larger, for the sauropods had spent their whole history pushing the limits of size, and there may have been room to push further still. They might diversify into new forms, long-necked browsers of the high canopy, broad-bodied grazers of the open plains, specialists of every habitat. They would surely adapt to the changing world, to the new plants that were evolving, to the cooling climate, to the drifting continents. Perhaps some would grow shaggy coats of feather-like insulation to endure the coming cold. Perhaps some would shrink, on isolated islands, into smaller forms, as large animals often do when marooned. Perhaps some would grow stranger and more specialized than anything that ever actually lived. The basic miracle of the sauropod, the vast long-necked giant, would endure and evolve and fill the saved world with living mountains for 66 million years more. And imagine simply standing among them in that saved world and beholding their scale. To stand at the foot of a titanosaur is to feel the way we feel standing at the foot of a great tree or a vast cliff, a sense of scale that humbles and quiets the mind. These were creatures so large that they moved slowly through the world, unhurried, serene, untroubled by almost anything, browsing the high green canopy in the warm sunlight, their long necks swaying gently against the sky. There is a deep peace in the image of them, these gentle giants, vast beyond reckoning, moving slowly across an ancient land, as they had for 100 million years, and might have for 100 million more. The largest, calmest, most magnificent creatures the land has ever known, enduring on and on through the saved world, beneath the same warm sun. Hold that peaceful image as you sink toward sleep, a herd of great long-necked giants, vast and serene, moving slowly across a green and sunlit plain, their long necks swaying gently as they browse the high treetops, the ground trembling softly with their slow and patient steps. They have ruled as the giants of the land since before the world we know, and in this saved world they rule it still, on and on through the long ages, the gentle thunder lizards, the living mountains, enduring beneath the ancient sun. Let their vast and gentle calm settle over you, slow and deep, as you drift down toward rest. Where there are great herds of giants, there are great hunters to prey upon them, and the predators of the dinosaur world were among the most magnificent and terrifying creatures that have ever lived. Let us turn now to them, the great meat-eating dinosaurs, the tyrant kings and their swift and deadly kin, and ask what they would become, given another 66 million years to perfect the ancient art of the hunt. The great predators of the late dinosaur world were the theropods, the meat-eaters, walking on two legs, armed with teeth and claws. Greatest among them, at least in fame, was the tyrant king himself, Tyrannosaurus, 40 feet long, with a head the size of a person and jaws that could crush bone, one of the most powerful land predators the world has ever produced. But the tyrant king was only one of many. There were swift, clever pack hunters with sickle-shaped killing claws on their feet. There were strange specialists, fish-eaters with crocodile jaws, long-armed giants, feathered hunters of every size. The meat-eating dinosaurs had been perfecting the art of the hunt for over 150 million years, and they had become superbly good at it. And in the saved world they would go on perfecting it for 66 million years more. What would they become? The great tyrant kings might grow even more powerful, even more specialized, the ultimate expression of the giant predator. The swift pack hunters might grow cleverer and more coordinated, their pack tactics ever more sophisticated, their senses ever sharper, and as we will see, it may be among these swift, clever hunters that the road toward true intelligence would eventually open. The predators would surely keep pace with their prey in the endless evolutionary arms race. As the herbivores grew larger, better armored, better defended, the predators would grow stronger, smarter, better armed to overcome them. Across 66 million years, this arms race would drive both hunter and hunted to ever greater refinement, producing predators and prey alike more magnificent than anything that actually lived. And like all great predators, these hunters would be not villains but keystones, the balancing force that keeps the whole living world in health. By culling the great herds, they would keep the plant-eaters strong and their numbers in check. By their presence, they would shape the behavior of every creature beneath them. The hunters and the hunted, locked in their ancient partnership, would drive each other onward across the ages. The herds growing swifter and better defended, the hunters growing swifter and more cunning, each making the other what it was, in a contest that ran for tens of millions of years. It is this endless contest, more than almost anything, that would sharpen the bodies and the minds of the dinosaur world, and that might, in the end, help give rise to true intelligence, as we will see. Picture one of them as you drift towards sleep, not as a thing of fear, but as a thing of terrible magnificence. A great feathered hunter, powerful and swift, standing at the edge of the evening plain, in the long golden light, watching the distant herds with keen and patient eyes. It has ruled this land for ages, this creature and its kind, down a line unbroken since before the world we know. And then it turns and melts away into the gathering dusk to hunt, as its ancestors have hunted, since the beginning of the age of dinosaurs. The tyrant kings of a world that never ended, magnificent, terrible, and free, beneath the ancient sun. Let us walk out now, in our imagination, onto the wide plains of the saved world, and spend some quiet time among its herds, the great plant-eating dinosaurs that would be the foundation of the whole living world, the gentle multitudes on which everything else depends. For in any rich land, it is the plant-eaters that come first and most abundantly, and the herds of the dinosaur world would be a wonder all their own. The plant-eating dinosaurs of the late Cretaceous were among the most successful and abundant creatures of their age. There were the horned dinosaurs, creatures like Triceratops, with their great bony frills and their long, sharp horns, heavy and powerful as a rhinoceros, moving across the plains in herds. There were the duck-billed dinosaurs, the hadrosaurs, with their broad, flat bills and their batteries of grinding teeth, superbly adapted for processing tough plant food, gathering in great herds that migrated across the land. There were the armored dinosaurs, bristling with spikes and plates, some with great bony clubs on their tails, walking tanks that almost nothing could harm. And there were many more besides, a rich and various world of plant-eaters, filling every role, feeding on every kind of vegetation, the great green engine of the dinosaur world. In the saved world, these herds would go on and diversify and evolve across 66 million years into an even richer array of forms. The horned dinosaurs might develop ever more elaborate frills and horns for display and defense, growing into new and stranger shapes. The duckbills might refine their grinding teeth and their plant processing still further, becoming the perfect grazers and browsers of the saved world, perhaps developing new ways of feeding as new plants evolved. The armored dinosaurs might grow ever better defended, and all of them would gather, as great plant-eaters tend to, into herds, for there is safety in numbers, many eyes to watch for the great hunters, and comfort in the closeness of one's own kind. The plains of the saved world would be covered in great herds of these magnificent creatures, moving slowly across the land as they fed, the young sheltered in the middle, the watchful adults at the edges. And these herds would shape the entire world around them. By their feeding, they would sculpt the plant life of the plains, spreading seeds, fertilizing the soil, keeping the landscapes open. By their abundance, they would feed every predator on the land, sustaining the great tyrant kings and all the lesser hunters besides. By their migrations, they would carry life and movement across whole continents, vast columns of horned and crested giants crossing the rivers and plains in their thousands, following the seasons and the fresh growth. The herds would be the great engine of the living world, The green turned into the warm and moving flesh on which all else fed. The slow, gentle multitudes at the foundation of everything, moving across the ages beneath an ancient sun. There is something deeply peaceful in the thought of them, and it is a fine image to rest upon as you grow drowsy. Imagine standing at the edge of one of those vast ancient herds, in the warm light of a late afternoon millions of years deep in a history that never happened. The great horned and crested giants spread across the plain as far as you can see, heads down, peacefully feeding, the young dozing in the warm sun, the whole gentle multitude at rest and at ease in a world that never knew catastrophe. Let that quiet abundance carry you, soft and slow, towards sleep, the great herds of the dinosaur world, grazing on forever beneath the long golden light. Let us turn now to something gentler, to the tender heart of the dinosaur world, to the nests and the young, to the care that these great creatures gave to their offspring. For one of the most beautiful discoveries about the dinosaurs is that many of them were devoted parents, building nests, tending their eggs, and caring for their young with a tenderness that overturns the old image of cold and savage monsters. And in the saved world, this gentle parenting would go on, in nesting grounds and nurseries scattered across the ancient land. We know, from wonderful fossil discoveries, that many dinosaurs nested in great colonies, returning year after year to the same nesting grounds, building their nests close together, just as many seabirds do today. We have found nesting sites with dozens of nests, each a carefully built mound or hollow, each holding its clutch of eggs. We have found dinosaurs preserved in the very act of brooding their nests, sitting carefully over their eggs to keep them warm, their arms spread protectively, exactly as a hen broods her chicks. One kind of duck-billed dinosaur was given a name that means good mother lizard, because the fossils showed that the parents cared for their young in the nest after hatching, bringing them food, tending them, until they were grown enough to fend for themselves. The dinosaurs, for all their size and power, were in many cases devoted and careful parents. In the saved world, this tender care would continue across all the long ages. Imagine the great nesting colonies of the saved world, vast nurseries where thousands of dinosaurs gathered each year to lay their eggs and raise their young, the ground covered in nests, the air full of the calls of parents and the peeping of hatchlings. Imagine the great horned and crested giants tending their nests, brooding their eggs, watching over their young with patient care. Imagine the hatchlings emerging, tiny, bright-eyed, feathered, peeping for food, and the parents tending them, feeding them, sheltering them, until they were grown. The saved world would be full of these gentle nurseries, these scenes of care and tenderness, generation after generation, the great dynasty renewing itself in countless careful nests beneath the ancient sun. And there is something deeply moving in the thought of it, that the dinosaurs, those creatures we imagine as fierce and terrible, were in truth, many of them, tender parents, building their nests and brooding their eggs, and caring for their young with the same devotion we see in the birds today. The fierce tyrant king may have brooded her eggs with infinite care. The great horned giant may have watched over his young with patient tenderness. Beneath all the size and power and savagery of the dinosaur world ran this deep current of care, the care of parents for their young, the oldest and gentlest force in all of life, carried on across the saved ages, in countless nests and nurseries, the great dynasty cradled, generation after generation, in tenderness. Hold that gentle image as you drift towards sleep, the great nesting grounds of the saved world in the warm light of evening, the parents settling over their nests, the hatchlings nestled warm beneath them, the whole vast nursery growing quiet as the night comes on, the great creatures brooding their eggs with infinite patience, watching over their sleeping young, keeping them warm and safe through the night, as parents have done since the beginning of the world. Let that tenderness settle over you, soft and warm, as you sink toward rest, cradled, like the sleeping hatchlings of the saved world, in the deep, gentle care that runs beneath all of life. There is an image of the dinosaurs that most of us grew up with, great scaly reptiles, gray and green and lizard-like, cold and slow. But modern science has overturned that image, almost completely. and revealed something far stranger and more wonderful, that the dinosaur world was, in large part, a feathered world, and the saved world, evolving forward for 66 million years, would have been more feathered still, a world of warm, bright, plumed creatures that would astonish anyone expecting the grey reptiles of old imagination. We now know, from countless fossils, that feathers were widespread among the dinosaurs, and not just among the small flying kinds. Many of the meat-eating dinosaurs, including relatives of the great Tyrant kings, bore feathers, at least at some stage of their lives. The feathers did not arise for flight. They arose, most likely, for warmth, for insulation, to keep a warm-blooded body warm, and for display, for showing off to mates and rivals in brilliant colors and patterns. Only later, in one branch, did feathers become the means of flight that we see in the birds. So the dinosaur world was not a world of bare gray scales. It was, in large part, a world of feathers, of fuzz and down and plumes, of bright colors and bold patterns, of creatures more like vast, strange birds than like the lizards of old imagination. In the saved world, this feathered nature would only deepen and spread. As the climate cooled across the ages, as the ice ages approached, feathers would become more valuable than ever for warmth, and more dinosaurs would likely bear them, growing shaggy coats of insulating plumage to endure the cold. And feathers, once present, are wonderful material for display, and so the saved world would likely blaze with color, the dinosaurs evolving brilliant plumage to attract mates and signal to rivals, just as birds do today. Imagine the great hunters not as gray monsters but as vast, bright, feathered creatures, crested and plumed and patterned in bold colors. Imagine the herds adorned with display feathers, the males showing off in brilliant courtship displays. Imagine a whole world of dinosaurs as colorful and feathered as a modern aviary, but on the scale of giants, a feathered world, bright and warm and strange. And the feathers would be a sign of something deeper, that the dinosaurs were warm-blooded, active, energetic creatures, not the slow, cold reptiles of old imagination. A creature grows insulating feathers because it makes its own heat and needs to keep it. The feathered dinosaurs were warm-blooded, like their bird descendants, burning fuel to stay warm and active, capable of swift movement and sustained effort, and in some cases, large, hungry brains. The feathered world was a warm world, an active world, a fast-living world, a world of creatures far more dynamic and far more like birds than the lumbering monsters of the old films. And in the saved world, this warm, active, feathered nature would carry the dinosaurs through everything that was coming, the cold, the changing plants, the drifting world, and lay the foundation, perhaps, for the rise of intelligence itself. Hold that bright and feathered world in your mind as you settle towards sleep, not the gray reptiles of old imagination, but a world of warm, plumed, brilliant creatures, crested and colored and alive, vast feathered giants moving through ancient forests, bright displays flashing in the courtship of the herds, the whole dinosaur world blazing with feather and color beneath the ancient sun, a feathered world, warm and strange and beautiful, that we are only now, through the patient work of science, beginning to truly see. Let its warmth and color settle over you, gentle and bright, as you drift toward rest. Let us lift our eyes now from the creatures to the world itself, to the land and the climate and the great slow rhythms of the planet, for the saved world would not stay still beneath its thriving dinosaurs. Over the 66 million years we are imagining, the very continents would move, the climate would shift, and the whole stage on which this drama played out would slowly transform. The dinosaurs would have to follow their drifting world wherever it carried them. At the time of the asteroid, the continents were already much closer to their modern positions than they had been earlier in the age of dinosaurs, but they were not yet where they are now. Over the 66 million years that followed, in our own history, the continents drifted into their modern arrangement. The Atlantic Ocean widened, India crashed into Asia and threw up the Himalayas, the Americas joined together, Australia and Antarctica went their separate ways. All of this would still happen in the saved world, for the drifting of the continents does not care whether the dinosaurs live or die. And so, across the saved 66 million years, the dinosaurs would ride their continents across the face of the world, carried slowly into new positions, new climates, new arrangements of land and sea. And this drifting would shape the dinosaurs profoundly, just as it shaped the mammals in our own history. As the continents separated, they would carry their dinosaur populations into isolation, onto separate drifting lands, where each would evolve along its own path, cut off from the others by the widening seas. Just as Australia, in our world, evolved its own unique mammals in isolation, so in the saved world, each drifting continent would become its own treasure house of unique dinosaurs, evolved in isolation into forms found nowhere else, a separate bestiary on every continent, a dozen different evolutionary experiments running in parallel across a drifting world. The dinosaurs of the isolated southern continents might grow strange and unique. The dinosaurs of the joined northern lands might spread and compete and diversify. Island dinosaurs might grow into giants or dwarfs, as island creatures do. And the rising of new mountains would reshape the dinosaur world as well. As India drove into Asia and raised the Himalayas, as other ranges rose where continents collided, great new highlands would appear, with cold climates and thin air, and the dinosaurs would adapt to them, perhaps developing highland forms, feathered against the cold, ranging across the new mountains. New rivers would carve new valleys, new coastlines would open new habitats. The whole physical world would be remade across the 66 million years, and the dinosaurs would be remade along with it, following their drifting, rising, ever-changing world into new forms and new ways of living. There is a deep and restful grandeur in this vast, slow motion, and it is a fine thing to hold as you sink towards sleep, the whole face of the world slowly rearranging itself across 66 million years, the continents wandering like great slow ships across the globe, carrying their cargo of dinosaurs into isolation and into new climates, each drifting land becoming its own world, its own story, its own bestiary of dinosaurs that never were. A drifting world, endlessly changing, endlessly diversifying, building across the ages a richness and strangeness of dinosaur life that our own broken history never had the chance to see. Let that vast, slow drift carry you, gently, down toward rest. For most of their long reign, the dinosaurs lived in a warm world, a hothouse Earth, far warmer than today, with no great ice caps at the poles, with lush forests growing even in the polar regions, with warmth spread across the whole globe. But that warm world was not to last. Across the 66 million years of saved time, the Earth would slowly cool, sliding at last toward the ice ages, and the dinosaurs would have to face the coming cold. How would the warm weather giants of the hothouse world survive the coming of the ice? The cooling was already beginning, slowly, even in the late age of the dinosaurs, and it would continue across the saved 66 million years, just as it did in our own history. The lush, warm hothouse world would gradually give way to a cooler, more seasonal world, with colder winters, with ice forming at the poles, and eventually with the great ice ages, when vast sheets of ice would spread across the northern lands. This was the world the mammals faced and adapted to in our own history, evolving thick fur and warm blood, and the woolly giants of the Ice Age. In the saved world, it would be the dinosaurs who faced it, and the question is whether they could adapt. And the answer, almost certainly, is yes, for the dinosaurs were far better equipped for cold than the old image of them suggests. Remember that many dinosaurs were warm-blooded, making their own heat, and many bore feathers for insulation. These are exactly the traits a creature needs to survive the cold. We even have evidence from our own history that dinosaurs lived in the polar regions of their warm world, enduring the long, dark polar winters, the months without sun, perhaps the snow and frost. The dinosaurs were not tropical specialists, helpless in the cold. They were adaptable, warm-blooded, feathered creatures, some of them already living in the coldest places of their world. So as the saved world cooled, the dinosaurs would adapt, growing thicker coats of insulating feathers, evolving cold-weather forms, the warm-blooded giants of the hothouse, slowly becoming the shaggy, feathered, cold-enduring dinosaurs of the coming Ice Age. Imagine them, then, the dinosaurs of the Ice Age, a sight no human eye has ever seen but which the saved world might well have produced. Great shaggy feathered giants, plumed thick against the cold, moving across snowy plains beneath a grey winter sky. Herds of crested plant-eaters in heavy winter coats, breath steaming in the frozen air, pawing through the snow to reach the plants beneath. Feathered hunters, white-plumed for camouflage against the snow, stalking through the winter forests. Perhaps even great woolly tyrant kings, shaggy and warm, the Ice Age monarchs of a frozen world. The dinosaurs of the ice, warm-blooded, feathered, enduring, carrying their ancient dynasty even into the cold that, in our world, belonged to the mammoths and the woolly rhinos. The dinosaurs would not fall before the cold, they would dress for it and endure. Hold that strange and beautiful image as you drift toward sleep. The dinosaurs of the Ice Age, shaggy and feathered and warm, moving slowly across the snowy plains beneath a pale winter sun, their breath steaming in the frozen air, enduring the long cold as their ancestors had endured everything else, carrying the ancient dynasty of the dinosaurs even into the age of ice. A world we never saw and never could. The thunder lizards of the frozen north, plumed against the snow, enduring on and on through the coming cold, beneath the same ancient sun. Let that cold and gentle beauty settle over you, soft as falling snow, as you sink toward rest. Here is something most people never think about. For almost the entire reign of the dinosaurs, there was no grass. The vast grasslands that cover so much of our modern world, the prairies, the savannas, the steppes, did not exist. Grass, that humble and now ubiquitous plant, arose only very late in the age of dinosaurs and did not spread to cover the world until after the dinosaurs were gone, in our own history. So the rise of the grasslands is one of the great changes that the saved world would face, and it would transform the dinosaur world profoundly. Picture the world of the dinosaurs as it mostly was, for most of their reign, a world without lawns, without meadows, without open grassy plains. The land was clothed instead in forests of conifers and ferns, in stands of cycads and ginkgos, in the green of an older kind of vegetation. The great plant-eating dinosaurs fed on these, browsing the trees, cropping the ferns, processing the tough ancient foliage with their grinding teeth and their great fermenting guts. It was a green world, but a different green, a world of forest and fern, not of open grassy plain. And then, late in the age of dinosaurs, the flowering plants arose and spread, bringing new kinds of vegetation, new colors, new foods, and among the flowering plants, eventually, came the grasses. In our own history, the grasses spread after the dinosaurs were gone, and it was the mammals who adapted to them, evolving the grazing animals we know, the horses and antelope and bison, with their specialized teeth for cropping and grinding the tough, gritty grass, gathering in great herds on the open plains. But in the saved world, it would be the dinosaurs who met the rise of the grass, and they would adapt to it, surely, as they adapted to everything, evolving grazing dinosaurs, with teeth and guts suited to the new tough food, spreading out onto the new open grasslands, gathering in great grazing herds where once there had been only forest. Imagine herds of grazing dinosaurs spread across vast open plains of grass, like the great herds of the African savanna but on the scale of giants, horned and crested grazers cropping the endless grass, watched by feathered hunters at the plain's edge. A whole new world of grassland dinosaurs that our own history never had the chance to produce. And the rise of the grass would reshape the whole dinosaur world, opening vast new habitats, driving new evolution, creating new ways of living. The open grasslands favor speed, for on the open plain there is nowhere to hide, and both hunter and hunted must run. So the grassland dinosaurs might grow swift, long-legged, built for the chase across the open plain, just as the grassland mammals did in our world. The grasslands favor herds, for safety in the open, and so the grazing dinosaurs might gather in ever greater multitudes. The grasslands favor sharp senses, keen eyes and ears, to spot danger across the open distance. A whole new suite of adaptations would arise among the grassland dinosaurs, reshaping them for life on the open plain. the dinosaurs remade, once again, by a changing world. Hold that image as you settle towards sleep, a vast open plain of waving grass, golden in the evening light, stretching away to the far horizon, and across it, the great grazing herds of the saved world, swift, long-legged, feathered grazers, moving slowly across the endless grass, the young among them, the watchful hunters at the distant edge, the whole vast scene glowing in the warm, low sun. A world of grass and giants that never was and might have been, the dinosaurs of the open plain, grazing the golden grass beneath the ancient sun. Let that wide and peaceful golden world carry you, gently, toward rest. Let us lift our eyes now to the sky and to the creatures that ruled it, for the air of the dinosaur world was filled with flying life, and in the saved world it would be filled still, perhaps with creatures stranger and more magnificent than any that ever actually flew. Let us spend a while among the lords of the air. In the age of the dinosaurs, the skies were ruled by two great groups of flying creatures. The first were the pterosaurs, the flying reptiles, cousins of the dinosaurs, who had ruled the air for over 100 million years. Some of them were small, but some grew to staggering sizes. The greatest of them, in the late Cretaceous, were as large as small airplanes, with wingspans of over 30 feet, the largest flying creatures that have ever existed, soaring over the land like living gliders, perhaps coming down to stalk smaller prey on foot like giant storks. The second group were the birds, the small feathered dinosaurs that had taken to the air, sharing the skies with the great pterosaurs, growing more diverse and more capable across the late age of dinosaurs. In our own history, the great pterosaurs died with the dinosaurs in the Catastrophe, and only the birds survived to rule the skies thereafter. But in the saved world, both groups would live on, and the skies would hold both the great soaring pterosaurs and the swift diversifying birds, sharing the air, perhaps competing, perhaps dividing the sky between them. Imagine the great pterosaurs soaring on across the saved 66 million years, perhaps growing even larger, even stranger, vast leathery-winged giants wheeling over the plains and coasts, the greatest flyers the world has ever known, enduring on and on instead of vanishing. And imagine the birds diversifying beneath and around them, into all the myriad forms that birds would eventually take, but sharing their world always with the great flying reptiles that, in our history, were lost. It is possible that the two groups would have come into conflict, that the swift, efficient, diversifying birds would have slowly outcompeted the great pterosaurs, as some scientists suspect was already beginning to happen late in the age of dinosaurs. Perhaps, across the saved 66 million years, the birds would have risen and the pterosaurs would have slowly faded, until the skies belonged to the birds after all. Or perhaps the two would have found their balance, the great pterosaurs ruling the high soaring spaces and the open coasts, the birds filling the smaller, swifter, more various roles, and the saved skies would have held both, a richer aerial world than our own, with giants and songbirds together. Either way, the air of the saved world would be full of wonder, full of wings, full of flight, full of creatures descended from the age of dinosaurs, ruling the sky. Picture them as you drift towards sleep, the lords of the air, wheeling against the evening sky, the great pterosaurs soaring high on the warm air, vast and silent, their long wings spread against the gold and violet of the sunset, the flocks of birds wheeling and turning beneath them, swift and many, filling the lower air with movement and song. The whole sky alive with wings, from the greatest soaring giant to the smallest flitting songbird, all of them children of the age of dinosaurs, all of them ruling the air of a world that never ended. Let that great winged sky settle over you, soaring and peaceful, as you sink down toward rest. We have wandered the land and the sky of the saved world. Let us turn now to the sea and to the great creatures that ruled it. For the oceans of the dinosaur world were home to magnificent marine reptiles, and in the saved world, the deep would be ruled by them still, perhaps in forms grander than any that ever swam. The seas of the late dinosaur age were not ruled by the dinosaurs themselves, for the dinosaurs were creatures of the land, but by their relatives, the great marine reptiles. There were the mosasaurs, vast sea-going lizards, some of them 50 feet long, sleek and powerful, the apex predators of the late Cretaceous oceans, ruling the seas as the tyrant kings ruled the land. There were the long-necked plesiosaurs, sweeping through the water with their great paddle limbs, their long necks darting after fish. There were sea turtles the size of small cars, and great fish, and ammonites in their coiled shells, and a whole rich web of marine life filling the warm Cretaceous seas. The oceans were as full of wonder as the land, and almost all of it, the great marine reptiles especially, died in the catastrophe, along with the dinosaurs. In the saved world, the marine reptiles would live on, and the seas would be ruled by them still, across the 66 million years. The great mosasaurs might go on as the lords of the deep, evolving into ever more magnificent forms, the ultimate sea-going reptilian predators, perhaps growing as large and as specialized as the great whales of our own world. The long-necked plesiosaurs might endure and diversify, sweeping through the seas on their great paddles. And as the world changed, as the seas cooled, as the currents shifted, as new oceans opened with the drifting of the continents, the marine reptiles would adapt and change with them, remaining the rulers of the deep across all the long ages. In our own world, after the marine reptiles died, it was the mammals who eventually returned to the sea and produced the whales and dolphins and seals. In the saved world, that would never happen. The sea would belong still to the reptiles, and the great marine reptiles would rule the deep where, in our history, the whales now swim. Imagine the seas of the saved world, then, ruled not by whales but by great reptiles, as they had been for ages. Vast mosasaurs cruising through the blue, sleek and powerful, the lords of the deep. Long-necked plesiosaurs sweeping gracefully through the water, their necks darting after fish. Great sea turtles paddling slowly through the warm shallows. Coiled ammonites drifting in their countless millions. A whole rich ocean world, ruled by reptiles, enduring across the 66 million years that, in our world, transformed the seas completely. The deep of the saved world, ancient, reptilian, magnificent, rolling on beneath the waves of a world that never ended. Hold that deep blue world in your mind as you drift towards sleep, the warm seas of the saved world, full of ancient life, ruled by great and graceful reptiles. The vast mosasaur cruising silent through the blue, the plesiosaur sweeping gracefully through the green-lit shallows, the great sea turtle paddling slowly past, the coiled shells drifting in the gentle current, the whole peaceful, ancient reptilian sea rolling on and on beneath the waves, in a world where the great marine reptiles never died. Let that deep and gentle blue carry you, slow and quiet, down toward rest. In all our imagining of giants and tyrant kings and great soaring pterosaurs, it is easy to forget that most of the dinosaur world, like most of any world, was small. For every great giant, there were many small dinosaurs, swift, clever, quick-living creatures, scurrying through the undergrowth, hunting insects, gathering seeds, living by their wits. And it is among these small, clever dinosaurs, as we will see, that the most extraordinary possibility of the saved world would lie. So let us spend some time among the small and the clever. The late dinosaur world was full of small dinosaurs, many of them feathered, warm-blooded, swift, and surprisingly clever. There were the small, swift hunters, the size of a dog or a turkey, that ran down small prey on their long legs. There were the bird-like dinosaurs, feathered and quick, some of them already close cousins of the true birds. And among them were some of the most intriguing creatures of the whole dinosaur world, the troodontids, a group of small, slender, feathered hunters with unusually large brains for dinosaurs, with keen forward-facing eyes that gave them good depth perception, with grasping hands, with all the marks of clever, active, capable creatures. These were the clever dinosaurs, the quick-witted ones, living by intelligence rather than size, and they hint at something remarkable about what the dinosaur line could become. For it is often the small, clever creatures, not the great ones, who carry the future within them. The giants are magnificent, but it is the small, the quick, the clever, the social creatures who tend to evolve in the direction of intelligence, for they live by their wits, must outthink their problems rather than overpower them, and benefit most from a larger, sharper brain. In our own history, it was not the giants but the small, clever creatures, the early primates, quick and social and curious, who eventually gave rise to intelligence and to us. And in the saved world, the small, clever dinosaurs, the troodontids and their kin, already brainy, already keen-eyed, already quick and capable, would be exactly the kind of creature from which deep intelligence might one day grow. The future of the dinosaur world might lie not with the tyrant kings, but with these small, clever, unremarkable hunters, scurrying through the undergrowth while the giants ruled the plains above. And across 66 million years, these small, clever dinosaurs would have ample time to grow cleverer still. The endless pressures of survival, the need to find food, to avoid predators, to outwit prey, to navigate a complex and changing world, perhaps to cooperate and compete within social groups. All of these would push, slowly, generation by generation, toward larger brains and sharper minds. The clever dinosaurs would grow cleverer, the brainy lineages would grow brainier, and somewhere along that long road, in the saved world, the threshold might at last be crossed. The threshold into true intelligence, into real thought, into mind. The small, clever dinosaurs of the late Cretaceous were already partway down that road. Given 66 million more years, where might it lead? Hold that quiet possibility as you drift towards sleep. The small, clever dinosaurs, swift and feathered and bright-eyed, scurrying through the undergrowth of the saved world, hunting and foraging and living by their wits, while the giants ruled the plains above. Unremarkable, easily overlooked, and yet carrying within them, perhaps, the seed of the most extraordinary thing the dinosaur world could ever produce, a thinking mind. The future of a world is often hidden in its small creatures, quietly going about their lives, beneath the notice of the great. Let that gentle thought settle over you, soft and deep, as you sink toward rest, and we will follow it, next, down the long road toward mind. And now we come to the deepest question of all, the question that has been waiting beneath this whole journey. We have imagined the dinosaurs spreading and thriving and evolving across 66 million years, adapting to the cold and the grass and the drifting world. But could they, in all that vast stretch of time, have done the most extraordinary thing of all? Could the dinosaurs have produced a mind, true, deep intelligence, a thinking creature looking out at its world and beginning to understand it? Let us walk, gently, down the long road toward mind. We have already seen that the foundations were there. The small, clever dinosaurs, the troodontids and their kin, were already, in the late Cretaceous, brainy by dinosaur standards. With large brains, keen forward-facing eyes for depth perception, grasping hands, and the swift, active, warm-blooded bodies that a hungry brain requires. They were already among the most intelligent creatures of their world. And we have the living proof of dinosaur intelligence all around us in the birds. For some birds, especially the crows and ravens and parrots, are astonishingly intelligent, using tools, solving complex problems, planning for the future, recognizing themselves, rivaling apes in some of their mental feats. If birds, the small surviving dinosaurs, can be this clever, then the potential for intelligence clearly runs deep in the dinosaur line. The raw material for a mind was there. So imagine the slow growth of intelligence across the saved 66 million years. Among the clever dinosaurs, the same pressures that drove the growth of intelligence in our own ancestors would be at work. The demands of finding food and avoiding predators in a complex world. The challenges of social living, of cooperation and competition within the group, which in our history did so much to drive the growth of brains. The rewards of cleverness, of problem solving, of learning and remembering and planning. Across the long ages, generation by generation, brain by slightly larger brain, the clever dinosaurs might grow cleverer still, their brains expanding, their minds sharpening, their behavior growing ever more complex and flexible. And somewhere along that long road, in the saved world, the great threshold might be crossed at last, the threshold into true intelligence, into real thought, into a mind that knows itself. Scientists have actually imagined this, seriously, carefully. Decades ago, a paleontologist studying the brainy troodontid dinosaurs wondered what one might become if its line kept evolving toward intelligence, and sketched a creature he called the Dinosauroid, an intelligent descendant of the clever dinosaurs, with a large brain, grasping hands, upright posture, and forward-facing eyes. It was a speculative thing, and scientists argue about exactly what such a creature would look like. Many think it would remain far more bird-like than the original sketch suggested, more like an immensely clever, big-brained, flightless bird than anything humanoid. But the deep point stands. The clever dinosaurs were already on the road toward intelligence, and given 66 million more years, that road might have led all the way to a true thinking mind, a dinosaur that could think and plan and perhaps even wonder. Hold that staggering possibility gently as you drift towards sleep, for we will follow it further, the slow kindling of mind across the ages of the saved world, brain by brain, generation by generation, among the small, clever, feathered dinosaurs, until somewhere in the deep reaches of saved time, on a world where in our own history there were only the early mammals and the rising primates, the dinosaurs might have produced a thinking creature of their own. Not a human, not anything we would recognize, but a mind. A clever, feathered, bright-eyed mind. Looking out at the dinosaur world and beginning, in its own strange way, to understand it. The road to mind, walked not by us, but by the children of the dinosaurs, in a world that never ended. Let that vast possibility settle over you, deep and quiet, as you sink toward rest. Let us dwell a while, then, in that astonishing possibility that the saved world produced a thinking mind among the dinosaurs, and try gently to imagine what such a creature might have been like. For it would be a mind utterly unlike our own, and yet, in the deepest way, a fellow mind, a fellow wanderer, looking out at the same ancient world, on an earth that never knew our coming. The thinking dinosaur would not be human, of course, nor anything close. It would be a dinosaur, descended most likely from the small, clever, feathered hunters, the troodontids and their kin. So picture it feathered, warm-blooded, bright-eyed, standing upright on two legs, with keen forward-facing eyes and grasping hands, but unmistakably a creature of the dinosaur line, more like an immensely clever, big-brained bird than like any mammal. It might be covered in feathers, perhaps brightly colored, perhaps crested. It might communicate in calls and songs and displays, as birds do, rather than in words as we do. It would move and think and perceive the world in ways shaped by its dinosaur heritage, not by ours. A genuinely alien intelligence, and yet a real one, a true thinking mind in a feathered dinosaur body. But for all its strangeness, it might share the deep features that minds tend to share. It would be social, almost certainly, for deep intelligence in our world has nearly always arisen among social creatures, and the clever dinosaurs likely lived in groups. So picture it living in communities, families, clans, flocks, bound together by cooperation and communication, by the deep social bonds that intelligence both requires and creates. It would be curious and clever and capable of learning, solving problems, remembering, planning, perhaps using and even making tools, as the clever birds do. It might pass knowledge from one generation to the next, building up across time the beginnings of culture, that accumulation of learned wisdom that makes a thinking species more than the sum of its individuals. And it might have perhaps the deepest gift of all, awareness, the capacity to know that it exists, to wonder about its world, to look up at the stars and ask what they are. And imagine for a moment what such a creature might wonder about. It would look out at its world, the great herds on the plains, the giants browsing the forests, the pterosaurs soaring overhead, the vast feathered dynasty of which it was the cleverest flower, and it might begin to ask the deep questions, the questions that any mind eventually asks. What is this world? Where did it come from? What are these creatures I share it with? What am I? It might develop its own myths, its own stories, its own slow-growing understanding of its world. It might, in time, develop its own science, looking up at the same stars we look up at, the same moon, and beginning to understand them, A thinking dinosaur, wondering at the cosmos, ages before any human walked the earth, and never knowing that, in another version of history, the world would belong not to its kind, but to ours. There is something profoundly moving in imagining it, and it is a gentle thought to carry towards sleep. Somewhere in the deep reaches of a history that never happened, in the warm evening light of an ancient plain, a group of clever feathered creatures, the thinking dinosaurs of the saved world, might have gathered together at the end of the day, communicating in their own fashion, watching the herds and the setting sun, aware of themselves and their world and each other, wondering, in their own way, at the strange gift of being alive. Fellow minds, ages before us, on the earth that might have been, let them keep their ancient evening watch as you drift down, at last, towards sleep. If the saved world produced thinking minds among the dinosaurs, then we must ask the boldest question of all. Could those minds have built a civilization? Could there have been, deep in the saved history of the earth, a flowering of dinosaur culture and technology, cities perhaps, and tools, and knowledge, millions of years before anything of the kind appeared in our own history? And if there were, would we ever know? Let us imagine it gently. Suppose that somewhere in the deep reaches of the saved world, one line of those thinking dinosaurs crossed, not just into awareness, but into the long climb that we ourselves once climbed. The discovery of ever better tools, perhaps the mastery of fire, the building of shelters, then settlements, the development of rich language, the slow accumulation of knowledge across generations into something like science, something like history, something like a civilization. There is no law of nature that forbids it. If it could happen once, and it did, with us, then it could happen again, in another line, on another branch, at another time. The saved world, with its early minds, and its tens of millions of spare years, would have had time for it to happen, perhaps more than once. So picture, if you will, a civilization of the thinking dinosaurs, a culture of clever, feathered, warm-blooded creatures, rising to greatness in a time when, in our own history, the world held only the early mammals and the first primates. Picture their settlements along the ancient rivers, their tools and their crafts, their accumulated knowledge and their art, their understanding of their world slowly deepening across the generations. Picture them watching the stars, charting the seasons, telling their histories, wondering at their origins, a whole thinking, building, knowing civilization of dinosaurs, flourishing in the deep past of a world that never was. It is a staggering thing to imagine that the Earth might have borne not one civilization, ours, in the last eye blink of its history, but another, far older, built not by primates but by the children of the dinosaurs. And here is the haunting part, the part that touches something real about our own world. If such a civilization had arisen and flourished, and then, like all things, eventually passed away, would we ever know? The answer, sobering and strange, is almost certainly not. For across such vast spans of time, almost nothing survives. The relentless forces of the earth, the drifting continents, the rising and falling seas, the erosion of mountains, the burial and melting and remaking of the crust, erase nearly all trace of the past across millions of years. Even our own civilization, vast as it is, would leave only the faintest mark in the rocks if it vanished tomorrow, a thin, strange layer that would itself be mostly gone in a few million years. A civilization that rose and fell tens of millions of years ago might have left no recoverable trace at all, its cities ground to dust, its bones dissolved, its whole existence swallowed utterly by deep time. The saved world might have held civilizations of dinosaurs, and we would never, ever know. It is a thought to hold gently, with wonder rather than unease, as you sink towards sleep. That deep time is so vast, and so thorough in its forgetting, that whole worlds of mind and meaning could have risen and passed away, and left no trace at all. That the saved earth might have borne thinking, building, wondering dinosaurs for ages upon ages, civilization after civilization rising and falling like waves on a shore, all of them utterly lost now, to the great forgetting of time. Not a tragedy, simply the vastness of it, the depth of the past, the humbling immensity of all the time in which things might have happened that we can never know. Let that vastness hold you, soft and deep, as you drift down toward rest. We have imagined the dinosaurs thriving, evolving, perhaps even thinking, across the saved 66 million years. But all this time, there is another group of creatures we have barely mentioned, the group that, in our own history, would inherit the world and produce us. The mammals. Where would they be? In the world of the dinosaurs that never died? The answer is both humbling and strange. They would be exactly where they had always been, small and shadowy, and waiting in vain for a chance that never came. It is one of the most surprising facts about the age of dinosaurs that the mammals were already there, all through it. The mammals arose at almost the same time as the dinosaurs, more than 200 million years ago. Our own lineage is just as ancient as theirs. But all through the long reign of the dinosaurs, the mammals lived in their shadow. They remained small, most of them no larger than a rat or a shrew, the very largest no bigger than a badger. They remained hidden, many of them nocturnal, scurrying through the undergrowth by night, avoiding the dinosaurs that ruled the day. For over 150 million years, the mammals were the small, shadowy creatures of the dinosaur world, never growing large, never rising to dominance, always living in the margins of a world that belonged to others. They were waiting, though they did not know it, waiting for the dinosaurs to fall. And in our own history, the dinosaurs did fall, and the long wait ended. When the asteroid struck and the great dinosaurs died, the world was suddenly emptied of its rulers, and the small shadowy mammals crept out of the undergrowth at last and found a whole world open before them, free for the taking. And they took it. In the 66 million years that followed, the mammals exploded into the empty world, evolving with astonishing speed into every form and size. The great whales of the sea, the elephants and rhinos of the plains, the bats of the air, the lions and bears and wolves, and, at the very end, the primates, and from them, us. The entire rise of the mammals, including our own existence, happened only because the dinosaurs fell and left the world empty. The mammals inherited the earth, not by triumph, but by surviving a catastrophe that destroyed their rivals. But in the saved world, that catastrophe never comes, and so the mammals' long wait never ends. The dinosaurs never fall, the world is never emptied, and the mammals remain exactly what they had always been, small, shadowy creatures, scurrying through the undergrowth, hiding by night, living in the margins of a world that belongs, still and forever, to the dinosaurs. They do not rise. They do not grow large. They never produce the whales or the elephants or the great cats, and they never produce the primates, and they never produce us. In the saved world, the mammals stay small forever, the eternal understudies of a play whose lead never leaves the stage. And we, the strange, clever primates who, in our world, rose from those mammals, simply never come to be at all. There is a deep humility in that thought, and it is worth holding gently as you drift toward sleep. We tend to think of ourselves as the inevitable crown of creation, the destined rulers of the earth. But the saved world reveals the truth. We are here only by accident, only because a random stone fell from the sky and destroyed the creatures who had kept our ancestors small and shadowy for 150 million years. Without that catastrophe, our ancestors would still be small and shadowy and scurrying in the dark, and we would never have existed at all. We are not the destined rulers of the earth. We are the lucky beneficiaries of a catastrophe. And in the world where that catastrophe never came, the mammals wait in the shadows still, and the world belongs, as it always had, to the dinosaurs. Let that humbling and gentle truth settle over you, soft and deep, as you sink toward rest. Let us do something now that we have circled around all night but never quite done. Let us stand, fully, in the present day of the saved world, in the now of that other Earth, 66 million years after the asteroid missed, at the very same moment you are living through tonight, and look around at the world the dinosaurs would have built, right up to this very night. For the saved world is not only a thing of the deep past, it runs parallel to our own, all the way to the present, to this very moment. And in that other now, the dinosaurs are alive. Picture the modern Earth, the continents in their familiar places, the climate much like our own, the same mountains and rivers and coastlines we know, the same moon overhead, the same stars. But fill it, now, not with our world's creatures, but with the descendants of the dinosaurs, evolved across 66 million years, into the rulers of a modern world. On the plains where we have our antelope and our cattle, there move great herds of grazing dinosaurs, feathered and bright, cropping the modern grass. In the forests where we have our deer and our bears, there move feathered hunters and clever foragers. In the cold north, where we had our mammoths, there move shaggy feathered giants, plumed against the snow. The same modern world, the same modern climate, but ruled, still, by the ancient dynasty, carried unbroken into the present day. And in this modern saved world, the clever dinosaurs, perhaps by now truly intelligent, perhaps even civilized, would be living through their own version of now. Perhaps, on this very night, in that other world, a thinking dinosaur stands looking up at the same moon you might see from your own window, wondering at it as you wonder. Perhaps a whole civilization of dinosaurs has risen and looks up at the same stars and asks the same deep questions we ask. Or perhaps the dinosaurs remained magnificent animals and never crossed into mind, and the modern saved world is simply a vast wild earth, ruled by feathered giants, with no one to wonder at it at all. We cannot know which, but either way, in that parallel present, the dinosaurs are alive, right now, this very night, ruling a modern earth that runs alongside our own, separated from us only by the falling of a single ancient stone. There is something dizzying and beautiful in that thought, that there is, in the realm of what might have been, a present-day Earth as real and as detailed as our own, unfolding this very night, in which the dinosaurs never died and rule the world still. A world where, as you lie here in the dark, the great herds are grazing beneath the same moon, the feathered hunters are stalking through the same night, and perhaps a thinking dinosaur somewhere is lying down to its own rest beneath the same stars. Two presents, two nows, two versions of this very night, one with us in it and one with them. And only one of them is real, but the other hangs there, just beyond the edge of what happened, as vivid and as possible as our own, the present day of the world that might have been. Hold that parallel present gently as you drift towards sleep, the modern Earth of the dinosaurs, alive this very night, the great herds grazing beneath the same moon that shines on you, the whole magnificent dynasty carried unbroken into a now that runs alongside your own. It is not our world, we are not in it, but it might have been. And tonight, in the dark behind your eyes, you have stood in it, and seen it, and known it for the wonder it would have been. Let that gentle parallel world settle over you, soft and deep, as you sink toward rest. And now we come, as we always must, to the question of ourselves. For this whole imagining, this saved and thriving world of dinosaurs, casts a strange and revealing light back upon our own existence. Because if you are hearing these words, then in your world, the asteroid did strike, the catastrophe did come, and we are here, listening together in the dark, precisely because of it. Follow the chain back, and it is staggering. In our world, the asteroid fell, and the great dinosaurs died, and the world they had ruled for over 150 million years was suddenly emptied of its masters. And into that empty world crept the small, shadowy mammals who had waited so long in the margins. And they rose, at last, and filled the world. From those rising mammals, across 66 million years, came the whole modern world of mammalian life. And among them, the primates, the clever social tree dwellers. And from one line of primates, in Africa, a few million years ago, came the first upright apes. And from them, at the very end, came us. Every step of our existence, traced back, runs through that ancient catastrophe. We exist because the dinosaurs died. We are here because the sky fell on them 66 million years ago and cleared the world for our ancestors to inherit. And this is what the saved world reveals to us, by its very difference. In the saved world, where the asteroid missed, the dinosaurs never fall, and so the mammals never rise, and the primates never arise, and we are never born. The saved world, for all its wonders, its thriving dinosaurs, its thinking minds, its perhaps civilizations, is a world without a single human being in it, anywhere, ever. It is a world where you do not exist, where I do not exist, where no human face ever looks up at the sky and wonders. The whole of humanity, every person who ever lived, every love and every loss, every song and every story, all of it, depends entirely on that single stone, falling on that single morning, 66 million years ago. Without it, none of us would be here. The saved world is the proof, a magnificent world, full of wonders, and utterly empty of us. Sit with that, gently, in the quiet dark, the vertiginous strangeness of it. The death of the dinosaurs, one of the greatest catastrophes in the history of life, the destruction of the most successful dynasty the Earth has ever known. That is the thing that made us possible. Had the asteroid missed, the world might have gone on being magnificent, full of dinosaurs, and perhaps even dinosaur minds, but we would not be in it. We owe our very existence to a catastrophe 66 million years ago, a random stone falling from the sky, an event of pure cosmic chance that destroyed a world and, in destroying it, made room for ours. We are the children of that catastrophe. We are here because the dinosaurs died. There is a deep and humbling wonder in that, and a strange kind of gratitude, that out of one of the greatest of all catastrophes, across 66 million years, came this, you, lying here in the warm dark, alive and aware, and able to imagine the world that would have been if the disaster that made you had never come. We are improbable beyond reckoning, the unlikely heirs of a fallen dynasty, here only by the wildest of chances. And there is something precious in that improbability, something that makes this quiet moment, your breath, your warmth, your drowsy, wondering mind, all the more a gift. Let that gentle wonder settle over you, soft and deep, as you drift towards sleep, that you are here at all, against all the odds, a child of catastrophe, alive in the world that the falling sky made. Let us hold the two Earths side by side now, as we near the end of our long journey, our own history, and the saved world that might have been, and see, in their great difference, what each one is. For they are the same planet, the same ancient Earth, divided only by a single stone falling from the sky, 66 million years ago, the asteroid that struck in one world and missed in the other. In our Earth, the asteroid struck, and history runs through catastrophe and renewal. The dinosaurs fall, the mammals rise, the primates arise, and at the very end, we arise. It is a history of breaking and remaking, a stage swept clear by catastrophe, and then refilled with entirely new life. Our world is the world where the ancient dynasty fell, and a new one rose from the shadows to take its place. A world built on the wreckage of the old, a survivor's world, a world that exists in its current form only because so much was destroyed. We are here, with all our works and wonders, because the dinosaurs are not. Our whole world is the world the catastrophe made. In the saved Earth, the asteroid misses, and history runs smooth and unbroken from the age of dinosaurs onward. The dinosaurs never fall, the mammals never rise, the ancient dynasty simply continues, evolving and diversifying across 66 million years into a whole modern world of dinosaurs. Feathered, warm-blooded, adapted to the cold and the grass and the drifting continents, perhaps even thinking, perhaps even building. It is a world of accumulation rather than destruction, the ancient dinosaur dynasty building and building upon itself, never swept away, growing ever richer and stranger across the ages. The saved world is the world where the old dynasty never fell, a flourisher's world, magnificent and unbroken, full of the wonders that 66 million years of unbroken dinosaur evolution might produce. And which is the better world? It is again the wrong question, for there is grandeur in each and loss in each. The saved world is magnificent, a whole modern world of dinosaurs, perhaps richer and stranger than our own, perhaps holding minds and civilizations we can scarcely imagine. But it is a world without us, a world in which you and I and every human who ever lived simply never come to be. Our world is, in a sense, the lesser one. For the dinosaurs, the most magnificent dynasty the Earth ever knew, are gone from it, reduced to bones and birds. But it is our world, the world that actually happened, the world that, through its catastrophe, somehow produced us, these strange, wandering minds, able to look back across 66 million years and imagine the world that might have been instead. The saved world has its dinosaurs, our world has us, and only one of the two is real. There is a quiet acceptance to rest upon in that, as you drift towards sleep, that we cannot have both, that the very catastrophe we might wish away is the one that made us, that to wish for the saved world, magnificent and unbroken as it is to wish ourselves out of existence. We are the children of the broken world, not the whole one. And there is a strange peace in embracing that, in being grateful even for the catastrophe, for the falling stone, for the long, violent, improbable chain that led, against all odds, to this quiet moment. You, here, now, alive in the world that the asteroid made, able to hold both Earths in your mind at once, the one that was and the one that might have been, and to find in both the same deep and gentle wonder. Let that quiet acceptance settle over you, soft and deep, as you sink toward rest. Let us set aside now all the great questions, the catastrophes and the contingencies, the mines and the lost civilizations, and simply take a walk, one last quiet walk, through the saved world itself, in the warm light of an ordinary day, millions of years deep, in a history that never happened. Let your breathing slow, and come with me, and we will wander through this world of living dinosaurs, and let it carry us gently down towards sleep. We begin in the cool of what passes for morning, on the edge of a great forest of conifers and ferns and flowering trees, their leaves heavy with dew. The air is warm and damp and full of sound, the calls and songs of countless creatures, strange and musical, like birdsong but deeper, stranger, woven through the green. As we walk out from beneath the trees, the land opens before us, into a vast plain, stretching away to the hazy horizon, and across it, as far as we can see, move the great herds. Thousands upon thousands of horned and crested dinosaurs, feathered and bright, their heads down in the grass, peacefully feeding. The young doze among them in the warmth. The whole great multitude drifts slowly across the plain, a gentle living tide, and the soft sound of their feeding and their movement fills the warm air like a distant murmur. We walk on, along the edge of the herd, through the warm morning. High above, a great pterosaur soars on the warm air, vast and silent, its long wings spread against the blue, and a flock of small bright birds wheels and turns beneath it. At the forest's edge, a herd of long-necked giants browses the high treetops, their necks swaying gently against the sky, the ground trembling softly with their slow and patient steps. In a quiet grove, a small group of clever feathered dinosaurs, bright-eyed, quick, watchful, moves through the undergrowth, pausing to regard us with a strange, intelligent curiosity before slipping away. And far off across the plain, at the very edge of sight, we glimpse the watchful shapes of the great hunters, feathered, powerful, patient, shadowing the herds, waiting for the evening. They do not trouble us, and we do not trouble them. We simply walk on, through the warm and teeming world, and let it unfold around us. As the day lengthens, the light turns golden and long, and we come at last to a low rise, looking out over the whole vast living plain. And here let us simply stop and sit and watch the evening come to the world that might have been, the great herds settling to rest in the gathering gold, the hunters beginning, far off, to stir, the pterosaurs returning to their roosts on the distant cliffs, the long-necked giants dark against the deepening sky. And perhaps, far off on another rise across the plain, a small group of clever feathered creatures, the thinking dinosaurs of this world, gathered together at the end of the day, watching the same sunset we are watching, aware, in their own quiet way, of the strange gift of being alive in this warm and ancient world. We cannot see them clearly across the distance and the gathering dusk, but we know they are there, and we wish them well. And there let us remain, on that low rise, as the golden light deepens toward dusk over the world that might have been. The herds at rest, the giants dark and peaceful, the warm air full of the murmur of a teeming world settling toward its night. There is nothing we need to do here, and nowhere we need to be. We have walked all day through a world that never was, and now the evening has come, and it is time only to sit and watch and let the warm and ancient peace of it settle over us as the long light fades and the first stars appear and the world of the dinosaurs that never died sinks gently, with us, toward sleep. Before we let go entirely and sink into sleep, let us gather up the quiet wisdom of this whole long journey, the gentle truths that the saved world and our own have offered us tonight, and carry them down with us into rest. The first is the strange and humbling truth that catastrophe and creation are deeply intertwined. We tend to think of catastrophe as pure loss, pure ending, and the death of the dinosaurs was indeed one of the greatest losses the living world has ever suffered, the destruction of the most magnificent dynasty the earth has ever known. And yet from that very catastrophe came everything that followed in our world: the rise of the mammals, the coming of the primates, and at last ourselves. The worst day in the history of the dinosaurs was also, in the fullness of time, the doorway to our own existence. This is not to celebrate destruction, but it is to recognize that in the deep workings of the world, endings and beginnings are bound together, that the clearing away of the old is often what makes room for the new, that even out of the greatest catastrophe, given enough time, life finds a way to build something unimaginable and new. There is a hard comfort in that nothing, not even the fall of the mightiest dynasty, is purely an ending. The second truth is the vastness of what might have been, and the preciousness, therefore, of what is. We have spent this whole night imagining a world that never happened, a rich, thriving, ancient world of living dinosaurs that was just as possible as our own, and that the chance falling of a single stone erased forever. And there are countless such worlds, countless ways history might have gone, countless Earths that might have been and never were, branching away at every turn of chance. Our own world, our own history, our own existence is just one path among unimaginably many, improbable, contingent, the product of a long chain of accidents and catastrophes that might so easily have gone otherwise. And that makes it precious beyond reckoning. We did not have to be. This world did not have to be. And yet here it is. And here we are, one actual world, one real history, drawn out of the infinite mist of all that might have been. To see how easily it might never have happened is to see how precious it is that it did. And the third truth is the deepest peace of all, the peace of the long view, the view across 66 million years. We have ranged tonight across spans of time so vast that our whole lives, our whole species, our whole brief history shrink to nothing against them. And there is, in that vastness, not a diminishment, but a strange and profound comfort. Our small troubles, our brief worries, the cares of our single day, set against the deep time of the earth, against the rise and fall of whole dynasties, across tens of millions of years, they grow gentle and small and quiet. We are tiny and brief and improbable, living for a moment on an ancient world that has seen the rise and fall of rulers beyond counting. And there is peace in that smallness, the peace of knowing that the world is vast and old and patient, that it has endured the fall of the mightiest and gone on, that it will turn on, deep and slow and ancient, long after our brief day is done. These are the gifts of the journey, then, to carry down into sleep, that endings make room for beginnings, that what is precious because it so easily might not have been, and that there is deep peace in the vastness of time, in which all our cares grow small and quiet. Hold them gently as the warm dark gathers, and let them carry you down toward rest. Let us linger now in the deep stillness of the saved world, in the quiet hours, and let the long peace of it settle fully over us before we sink down into sleep. For there is a particular quality of quiet to a world ruled by these ancient creatures, a vast, gentle, primeval stillness, and it is a fine thing to rest within as the night deepens around you. Imagine the whole world in the deep of the night, lying still beneath the stars. Across the darkened plains, the great herds have settled into their rest, the horned and crested giants gathered together, the young sheltered among them, the whole vast multitude quiet and still in the warm dark. In the forests, the long-necked giants stand drowsing among the trees, vast dark shapes against the night. The great hunters have made their kills or gone hungry, and now lie quiet in the undergrowth. The pterosaurs roost on the distant cliffs, their great wings folded. The small, clever dinosaurs have gathered into their shelters, their day's work done. The whole vast living world has settled into the deep stillness of the night, and over it all the ancient stars wheel slowly, the same stars, more or less, that turn above your own world tonight. There is no hurry anywhere in this world. The great herds rest in no haste. The giants drowse beneath the slow-wheeling stars. The seasons turn slowly, the continents drift slowly. The long ages pass in their own unhurried time. Everything in this world moves at the gentle, patient, ancient pace of deep time, slow and calm and serene, in no rush to be anywhere, content simply to turn quietly on through the long ages. And lying here beneath it, you can borrow a little of that unhurried calm, letting your own breathing slow to match the slow breathing of the sleeping world, letting your own thoughts settle and quiet, letting the patient stillness of the ancient world settle over you, like the warm dark itself. For there is nothing here that needs you to do anything at all. The world will turn whether you watch it or not. The herds will sleep and wake and graze and sleep again, across all the long ages, whether you tend them or not. The great slow rhythms of the ancient world, the turning seasons, the drifting continents, the rise and fall of dynasties, will roll on, deep and patient, across spans of time that dwarf your whole life and your whole world. And through all of it, you are asked only to rest, here, now, in the warm dark, beneath the same ancient stars that watch over the sleeping dinosaurs. You do not have to hold anything up tonight. You do not have to carry anything, or solve anything, or be anywhere but here. So let the long quiet of the ancient world settle over you now, deep and warm and serene. Let the great herds sleep on the darkened plains. Let the giants drowse beneath the slow-wheeling stars. Let the whole vast peaceful world, hushed and still beneath the ancient sky, draw you down into its stillness. The resting herds, the drowsing giants, the quiet hunters, the small clever dinosaurs asleep in their shelters, all of them at rest beneath the same stars, and you among them, held in the warm dark, sinking slowly down towards sleep. There is nothing left to do now but rest. The ancient world will keep its slow and patient watch. The long quiet will hold you, and the warm dark will fold gently over you, all through the long and peaceful night. And now, at last, it is time to let go. Our long journey through the world of the dinosaurs that never died is nearly over, and there is nothing left to do but sink, softly and slowly, down into sleep, carried by the warm and ancient peace of a world millions of years deep, in a history that never happened. So picture it one final time, and let it be the last thing you hold. The great plain in the last gold of evening, the vast herds settling to rest, the young dozing among the warm grass, the gentle murmur of the multitude fading into the quiet of the coming night, the long-necked giants dark and peaceful against the deepening sky, their great heads lowering at last toward rest, the warm air, soft and full of the drowsy sounds of a teeming world settling toward sleep, the distant calls of the great creatures, strange and musical, growing quiet one by one. And over it all, the first stars appearing in the violet dusk, the same stars more or less that shine over your own world tonight, the same ancient sky, over a world that might have been, sinking gently into its night. And you are there, on that low rise, in the warm gathering dark, with nothing to do and nowhere to be. The herds are at rest, the hunters have gone quiet, the giants drowse beneath the trees. The thinking dinosaurs, our distant might-have-been cousins, have settled with their families into their shelters for the night, their watch ended, their day done. The whole vast living world breathes slowly around you, settling, quieting, sinking toward its rest, and you can sink with it. You can let the warm, ancient peace of this world that never was fold over you like a blanket, and let yourself grow heavy and still and let go. There is nothing left to imagine now, nothing left to wonder, nothing left to do but rest, here, in the warm dark, at the close of a long day, in a world that might have been. The ancient world turns on around you now, deep and slow and peaceful. The great herds sleep on the darkened plains. The giants drowse dark and patient beneath the wheeling stars. The hunters lie quiet in the undergrowth, and the whole vast world of the dinosaurs that never died, teeming and ancient and at peace, sinks gently into its night, and asks nothing of you at all, but that you sink with it, down into the warm and dreamless dark. You have wandered far tonight, across 66 million years, through a world that never was, among herds and hunters and giants and thinking minds, and lost civilizations beyond counting. And now the wandering is done, and the long day is over, and it is time only to rest. So let the ancient world carry you down, let its warm and patient peace fold over you, soft and deep and kind. The herds will sleep on the darkened plains, the giants will drowse beneath the ancient stars, and the whole vast world that might have been will hold you gently through the long and quiet night, as you sink down at last into sleep, a child of the world that was, dreaming, for one quiet night, of the world that might have been. Sleep now, traveler through deep time. Let the ancient peace carry you down. The world will turn, as it has always turned, across all its endless ages. The dinosaurs will sleep on their darkened plains, in the world that might have been, and the warm dark will hold you, softly, through the long and quiet night. Good night.